a radical is any expression with a square root symbol above it. So for example, the square root of 3 or the cube root of x minus 5 would be a radical since it has the root symbol. So the parts of a radical are the radicand, which is the number you want to find the root of, and the index number, which is the number of times the radicand is multiplied by itself. 2 means square root, 3 means cube root. After that, they are called the fourth root, fifth root, and so on. If this is missing, it is assumed to be 2, the square root. I just wrote this 2 just for the purpose of showing the index number. So to simplify a radical, you need to break down the radicand to the prime factorization of that number, then manipulate the numbers so that you find square numbers or cube numbers or any numbers that multiply themselves up to the number of the index. Then you take the root of that number, then take it out of the root. For example, the square root of 20 has a primary factorization of 2 times 2 times 5. So in this case, we can see that there are one group of 2 2's, which equals to 4. Now it would be 4 times 5, the square root of 4 times 5, which is equal to the square root of 20. Now, using a relation that is not going to be explained in this video, we can separate these two factors to the square root of 4 times the square root of 5. That still equals the square root of 20. And we know that the square root of 4 is equal to 2. So we basically add 2 instead of the square root of 4. So in turn, we get 2 times the square root of 5, which is equal to the square root of 20. And if we get rid of this multiplication symbol, we get rid of this symbol, and we get 2 times the square root of 5 equals the square root of 20. So we're going to move on to another case, which is a square root or a radical with a variable inside it, such as the cube root of 405 times x to the 6th power times y to the 4th power. Now, while this radical might look intimidating, we just have to break it down. We can see that 405, it is 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 5. X6, we know that the exponent is 6, so you have to multiply x by 6 times. So it'd be x times x times x times x times x times x times y times y times y times y. Now we know that we have broken down the factors in the radicand to its primary factors. Now we have to group the repeating numbers or variables to the number of the index number. The reason is because we want to take the biggest factor out of the radicand, thus simplifying it. The only way to achieve that is through finding groups the size of the index number. If we do that, then we can find the root of the product that comes from the group. So for example, the index number is 3, so we have to find numbers or variables that multiply themselves 3 times. In this case, 405 has one group of 3 3's, so that would equal to 27. And therefore, if we write this equation out, it would be 27 times 3 times 5, which is equal to 405. Moving on to x to the 6th power, we know that 6 x's equals to 2 groups of 3 x's. So we can see that by taking that, we can simplify this into x cubed times x cubed, which is equal to x to the 6th power. And if we look at the y variables, we see that we can find one group of 3 y's, which is the size of the index number, and we can simplify that to y cubed. Now we know that we're trying to simplify this by making the radicals that we already know the value of into integers or numbers to take out of the radical. So for example, the cube root of 27 equals 3, the cube root of x cubed equals x, and the cube root of y cubed is equal to y. So using this, we can see that there's 27, there's x cubed, and there's y cubed. So using this, we can basically insert these numbers or variables into the equation, thus making it 3 times 3 times 3 times 5 times x times y times y. Now keep in mind that this 3 and this x, these x's and this y are out of this radical. So they are beside this because they're not radicals, they're numbers from radicals that we already know the value of. So what do I mean? It wouldn't look like this. It would look like 3 times x times y times the cube root of 3 times 5 times y, which is equal to 3x squared y times the cube root of 15y. So the simplified radical of the cube root of 405x to the 6th power and y to the 4th power would equal to 3x squared times y times the cube root of 15y. Now, this is all of the video, but just going on, what if we take the square root of -1? That is not the point of this video, so that is why we are going to stick to simplifying radicals. And since I've shown you everything that you need to know about simplifying radicals, thank you for watching this video, and please remember to like and subscribe. Thank you.